For the record, before I begin my questioning, one of the reasons that he's not able to review his notes is that the FBI did not want him to have access to classified information. I promised Mr. McCabe we would not go into the details of his dismissal, but I don't want anybody to have the belief that this committee chose for him not to have access. It was his former employer who made that decision. Now, very quickly, did anyone from the Trump campaign wind up being prosecuted for colluding with the Russians?
Senator, it's my understanding, the results of the Mueller investigation, that no one was prosecuted for criminal conspiracy involving activity with the Russians.
That would include Mr. Papadopoulos, is that correct?
Mr. Papadopoulos, to the best of my recollection, was prosecuted for making false statements to FBI agents.
Thank you. All right, let's make sure that the FBI treated both sides fairly. Senator Feinstein suggested it was right to open up the investigation against the Trump campaign. You say it was right, it was your duty. Let's look at the entire record of the 2016 election and see how even-handed the FBI was. On September the 7th, 2016, the CIA, now not the Australian ambassador of the United Kingdom in London, but our CIA sends an investigative lead over to the FBI, and they informed the FBI of U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private mail service. How many agents were assigned to investigate that?
Senator, if you are referring to the memorandum, the raw intelligence memorandum recently declassified by the DNI.
Yeah.
I have read that memorandum, and I don't understand it to be a request for investigative activity. I'm not aware that any agents were assigned to investigate the information.
Wait a minute, time out. You get a memo, an investigative lead is what the CIA calls it, alleging that Hillary Clinton had just signed off on a plan to tie Trump to Russia for political purposes. How many people looked at that? How many agents were assigned to see if it was true or not? Did you know about it? Did you know about it?
I was not aware of that memorandum.
Wait a minute, time out. You get a CIA memo, investigative lead memo, suggesting that the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, is trying to divert attention from her email server problem by casting aspersions against the Trump campaign being connected to Russia, and you didn't know about it. How is that possible?
Senator, I'd like to explain to you how that's possible.
Who did it go to? Who did it go to? I will. I just want to make sure if he understands who it went to. Who did the memo go to?
I read the memo recently. And my understanding, it went to Director Comey and was also to the attention of Peter Strzok. That memorandum that you're referring to, as I read it, is in response to an FBI request, oral request, for an update of the sort of information that the Crossfire Hurricane Task Force was reviewing about Russian activity in the campaign. That's from my best recollection. That's what the
I'm here to tell you that that's not what happened. Is that the CIA, and we've got the documents, sent to the FBI information suggesting that Hillary Clinton had approved of a plan to link Donald Trump to Russia for political purposes, and it went to Peter Strzok. Do you believe Peter Strzok was fair-minded when it came to the Trump campaign?
Senator, my experiences working with Peter Strzok, yes, I believe he was fair in the decisions that he made and the work that he did.
So do you object to Mueller relieving him from the investigation because of the emails show that he hated Trump's guts?
My recollection, sir, is that we removed Peter from that team because of the ongoing investigation.
Did you remove him or did Mueller remove him?
We had conversations on the evening that I was first shown the text messages between Mr. Strzok and Ms. Page, and we made the decision to remove him, and we reached out to Director Mueller's team, and they agreed with that. That's my recollection.
So you believe that Peter Strzok was on the up and up. Was it ever suggested to you by Mr. Precept that Mr. Strzok should not be involved in this investigation because of his relationship with Lisa Page?
Senator, I remember discussing with both Mr. Priestap and Mr. Steinbach.
So here's
probably
here are the facts. Precept suggests that Strzok not be involved. You overrode him. And here's what we know about Strzok and Page. Page, March 3rd, 2016. God, Trump is a loathsome human. Oh my God, Strzok. Trump's an idiot. He's awful. Strzok. God, Hillary should win 100 million to nothing. August 2016. Page, he's not ever going to become president, right? Strzok. No, he won't. We'll stop it. So is it your testimony under oath that you think Peter Strzok had no biases against Trump?
Senator, it is my testimony under oath that the work that I saw Peter Strzok do on the Crossfire case and on other cases.
Why didn't he tell you?
Indicate any.
Go ahead.
Senator, I'm having a hard time finishing an answer. I don't know if it's
please finish.
Connection or what? But.
Please finish.
So I was simply stating that the work that I saw Peter do on this case and other cases, from that work and the decisions he made, I did not see any indications of political bias.
How do you explain to the American people that when the FBI received a memo from the CIA alleging that Hillary Clinton had signed off on a plan concerning U.S. Presidential Donald Trump and Russia hackers hampering U.S. elections as a means of distracting the public from our use of a private mail service, that you did nothing? Should Peter Strzok have told you about this?
I can't explain to you, Senator, what Peter Strzok or Director Comey thought about that memo at that time.
Should you have been notified?
What I can say, Senator.
Wait a minute. No, please. I want to get into this. Everybody is saying that you had the right to open up an investigation against Trump based on the U.S. ambassador, the Australian ambassador to the United Kingdom who heard a conversation in a bar. What you're telling this committee, when the CIA informs the FBI about a plan signed off by Hillary Clinton to link Trump to Russia, nothing was done. Is that what you're saying? There was no investigation of that allegation at all?
What I'm saying, Senator, is it is not clear to me that there's an allegation of criminal conduct in that memorandum. That is based on my current reading of it. I did not see it at the time. I can't tell you what others thought.
A counterintelligence investigation is what was opened up against Trump, not a criminal investigation. Is that true? Papadopoulos was a counterintelligence investigation.
The case against Mr. Papadopoulos was a counterintelligence case.
So if you're going to have a counterintelligence investigation opened up against the Trump campaign based on a conversation by the Australian ambassador to the United Kingdom based on a bar conversation, you're telling me that's legit, and you put all the resources for 2.5 years to run that down, but you're telling this committee when our own CIA suggests that Hillary Clinton signed off on a plan to link Trump to Russia for political purposes, you didn't do a damn thing. Is that your testimony?
No, sir, that's not my testimony.
Well, what happened?
I'm happy to explain to you how we thought about the issue with Mr. Papadopoulos.
No, that's not my question. No, my question is, why did the FBI not open up an investigation based on the CIA input? The CIA is telling the FBI that they have information Hillary Clinton signed off a plan to deflect attention for her and put Trump in a bad light regarding Russia. That came in September 2016. You didn't know about it, apparently. Can you explain to this committee and the American people why the FBI did nothing regarding that allegation?
I cannot, sir, explain to you what Peter Strzok or anyone else thought about that at the time, but I can explain to you that the information in that memo.
I accept that you believe that Mr. Papadopoulos should be looked at. I'm not arguing with you. I don't understand how you can tell how the FBI operated. You've got a tip from an Australian ambassador to the United Kingdom talking about a bar conversation with Mr. Papadopoulos about Russia hacking, and that leads to 2.5 years of turning the country upside down. Your own CIA informs the FBI in September that they have information that Hillary Clinton herself signed off on a plan to divert attention from her email problems to Trump by linking him to Russia for political purposes. And Mr. Strzok never told you about it. The FBI never opened up an investigation. They never hired one agent. That really is disturbing to a lot of us. Now, let's go to the warrant. In June 2017, did you sign off on the Carter Page warrant application?
In June of 2016, yes.
17, I'm sorry.
17, I'm sorry, 2017.
Okay. Did you know at the time that the CIA had warned the FBI on numerous occasions to be careful using the dossier? It was internet rumor.
I did not know that at the time, and I don't know that now.
Okay. Well, we got a list of, list of CIA informs the FBI that Carter Page had been approved as an operational contact from 2008 to 2013. Did you know that the CIA had told the FBI that in August of 2017?
No, sir.
The reason that's important, that would explain why Mr. Page was actually talking to people he claimed to be talking with. Did you know, did you have a conversation with Mr. Orr about the reliability of Christopher Steele?
I had a conversation in October of 2016 with Mr. Orr about his interactions with Mr. Steele.
Did he tell you should be concerned and be careful?
I don't remember him saying I should be concerned or be careful now.
In the fall of 2016, this is his testimony to the committee. You put Mr. McCabe on notice. Hey, you need to watch this. You need to verify. I certainly gave him the same caveats, and the caveats were that Steele hated Trump. Yes, your concerns. Yes. What did he say when you told him that you were concerned about you need to be careful, for lack of a better term? I think he understood because he also worked on Russia criminal matters. So we have Mr. Orr under oath saying that expressed concerns to you, Strzok, and others about the reliability of Mr. Steele. You don't remember that?
Senator, I don't remember the specifics of our conversation. However, we were engaged in trying to determine and verify the statements in Mr. Steele's reporting at that time. So
Okay.
we were certainly concerned about those things.
Were you aware of the subsource interview in January and March to the FBI?
I was aware that an individual who our team thought of as one of the primary subsources had been identified and that they were interviewing.
Did they tell you about the substance of those interviews?
Not in detail.
So you didn't know that in January the subsource tells the FBI he had no idea where some of the language attributed to him came from. His contacts never mentioned some of the information attributed to them. He said he did not know the origins of other information that was supposedly from his contacts. He did not recall other information attributed to him or his contacts. Still used incorrect source characterizations for the primary subsource's contacts. that in March he said he never expected Steele to put his statements in reports or present them as facts. The statements were word of mouth and hearsay, conversations had with friends over beers, or statements made in jest that should be taken with a grain of salt. Was any of that ever communicated to you?
No, sir, not that I can recall.
If you knew then what you know now, would you have signed the warrant application in June of 2017 against Carter Page?
No, sir.
Okay. Finally, who is responsible for ruining Mr. Carter Page's life? If it's not you, if it's not Rosenstein, if it's not Comey, if it's not Sally Yates, who's responsible for putting together the information provided to the FISA court that was completely devoid of the truth, lacking material facts, completely represented what Mr. Page did and how he did it? Who should we look to for that responsibility?
Well, sir, I don't agree with the way that you've characterized the
That's what the
entirety
court
of
said.
I think, as the IG pointed out in the conclusions of their report,
Who's responsible, Mr. McCabe?
every person.
Everybody's responsible, but nobody's responsible?
Sir, it would help if you'd allow me to finish my answer. I think it might be easier to understand.
Okay. The question is, who's responsible?
And I think that we are all responsible for the work that went into that FISA. I am certainly responsible as a person in a leadership position with oversight over these matters. I accept that responsibility fully.
Did you mislead the
the
FISA court?
I signed a package that included numerous factual errors or failed to include information that should have been brought to the court.
And what should be done? What should be done to you and others?
Well, Senator, I think we are doing that with this process. I think our efforts should be focused on figuring out how these errors took place and ensuring that they don't happen again.
That starts with those who committed the problem being held accountable. Senator Feinstein.